All right, welcome back. Week 11, Chicken Number Sports Podcast. I'm Dan, joined by my co-hosts Matt and Zach. Zach's back this week from his
Not a
trip.
weak character anymore.
He was a weak character on our last Zoom, but
shout out to Tyler for the editing.
Yeah,
I like that.
And speaking of Tyler, he wanted us, our editor Tyler, he wanted to give Wisconsin a moment of silence for their loss yesterday to Iowa State. So
bitches in my whole phone.
All right, that's enough. That's enough.
a good moment of silence.
We don't care that much.
They don't deserve that much moment of silence, but
They don't. I'm sorry, they don't. They lost to, what was it?
Iowa State.
Really yeah.
lost to an 11
Iowa
seed.
State. Exactly.
But
We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into college basketball later. Good episode today, college basketball, NFL free agency signings, a bunch of MLB signings. So we can get started with arguably the biggest NFL news of the week, and that was the Deshaun Watson trade to the Cleveland Browns. He was traded to Cleveland with a fourth round pick for 3 first rounders, a third rounder, and a fourth round pick. Big deal in the NFL this week.
And then the contract too was 5 years, $230 million guaranteed too.
Yeah, fully guaranteed, biggest guaranteed
Not a
contract ever.
fan. Not a fan.
The contract.
Fan of the trade,
I
but
don't
not
like.
the contract.
Yeah. Also,
Not a fan of the contract.
morally, from a moral standpoint, I'm also technically not a fan of the trade. Because we don't know if he did it or didn't do it. It's very difficult to prove that he did. So that's obviously maybe not a good person, but a good football player. But yeah, the contract, I'm not a fan at all.
Yeah, I think it could end up blowing up in the Browns' faces a little bit with that contract. If people come out and say that he did do it again, he could be suspended. I mean, that's a lot of money to be giving your quarterback. But nonetheless, if he plays, they're a championship favorite or contender.
I wouldn't say a favorite, but they are definitely
a contender
up there with as a Super Bowl contender,
especially with the acquisition of Amari Cooper too.
Yeah. Now,
I will say I'm a little surprised he chose the Browns over like the Saints or the Falcons because
I think the Saints would have been.
He's gonna have to face Burrow and Lamar twice each a season, as opposed to really just Brady.
Although I will say you could make the argument that like Watson is better than both of them,
and they probably are the
still
best
more
team,
competition.
I think.
Yeah, that's true.
I think
there's still that's like 4 tough games as opposed to only 2 playing in the NFC South.
Oh yeah, that's fair, and especially with the Ravens getting healthy too.
And that would only be 2 games probably this year. I mean, or maybe in 2 years, because Brady will probably his career is coming to an end probably at least in the next couple of years. So it's definitely interesting. But I think the Texans are happy to get rid of Deshaun Watson. He had a decent tenure there, brought them some wins, but it was time for them to move on. And they did.
Clearly.
I think they got a good package back, 3 first-round picks, a couple other picks, so they can start their rebuild.
I think they're in a great spot, I think, because they knew he wasn't coming back. So they saw what they had in Mills, and Mills honestly looked pretty good.
He did.
Like comparatively to other rookie quarterbacks. And now they have 2 firsts for the next 3 years.
Yeah, they're just gonna tank, and like it's the Texans fans, they know that like they're gonna stink for a while.
If I was a Texans fan, I'd be pretty
honestly.
excited about the future, honestly.
A lot of cap space.
A lot of cap space, tons of picks.
You
don't really know expectations.
Exactly. So
they
kind of hit rock bottom at this point. Yeah, and now there's the only way to go is up.
Their only problem is they don't have any good players on the roster. They just have to find good players to play on their team. So
they have David Johnson. All right. Great.
They have one good player on their roster.
Brandon Cooks is good. My fantasy goat.
Yeah. But there was another big deal in the NFL, and that was the Davante Adams trade to the Raiders.
This one I actually like. I like a lot more than the Deshaun Watson contract. Like the contract, I think is way better.
I have thoughts on both. I have thoughts on both sides of the argument.
Yes, so do I.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I think with the Packers, I mean, they didn't want to pay him the money that he wanted, and I mean, this was a deal. There were reports that came out that this was a deal that they had discussed last summer, before the season. And Davante Adams had voiced that he wanted to play with Derek Carr, who was his old college quarterback. So I think Davante Adams is a winner in this deal. And I mean, the main loser is Aaron Rodgers.
Now his number one receiver will be Alan Lazard.
They need to make a move. Yeah, they need to make a move. I mean, I think Odell Beckham could be in play for them.
I agree.
Although he probably won't be back for a little while, but I think Julio Jones, Will Fuller, could be guys that they can go and get.
Yeah, and even in the draft,
they got to get in the draft. Yeah,
I think this is
that's their best
really
shot.
Good. I think this is a really good move for the Raiders, honestly, because with that division, you can't just sit and do nothing because you're gonna be last easily. I mean, they probably still could be last in the division, but at least they're going to be last in a playoff contender rather than
and I think
4 wins.
With the off-season moves that they made, they got a lot better.
They did
get better.
I still think that they are at the bottom of that division, but there is a world where
it's much closer
they make
than
the playoffs.
It was.
I mean, just look at that offense. I mean, you have Derek Carr, who I think is very underrated. Then you got Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, Davante Adams, Hunter Renfrow. You have 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers, a Pro Bowl tight end, a fringe probably Pro Bowl running back, and a fringe Pro Bowl quarterback. I mean, that's a really, really solid offense in a division where the other teams have good offenses, and you got to score to keep up with them.
Exactly.
They also signed Chandler
weapons.
Jones.
Yeah.
Yep. They signed Chandler Jones, which we can just touch on now. I think that was a solid deal. 3 years, $51 million.
Love it.
32 guaranteed.
Big loss for the Cardinals. Yeah.
Just think about the pass rush in the AFC West. You have Jones and Crosby on the Raiders, Mack and Bosa on the Chargers. You have Clark and Jones on the Chiefs, and you have Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb on the Broncos. It's insanity.
That division
is crazy.
Ridiculously
every game, every Sunday night football game should be a AFC West matchup.
Honestly, they got so good.
It's going to be must see TV in that division.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's a bunch of other signings. We mentioned Chandler Jones already. We can touch on Von Miller, who is signed with the Bills. I think it's a bad deal for the Bills.
Really? I disagree.
I have mixed thoughts.
Here's what I'll say.
I just think it's too much money and too long of a contract.
It is a lot of money. 6 years, 120 million, 51 guaranteed. That is a lot of money for a guy that's 30, 31. He's gonna be very old, but I don't think he's gonna be seeing the last 3 years of that deal. Maybe even 2 years. Let's be real. He's probably getting released or traded by that point. And they have a Super Bowl window right now. So I think it was good that they went.
He is a winner. He is a winner. I like that part. He adds value with being a winner, but I just think that they could have saved that money and put it somewhere else.
That's fair. Although I think for the next 2 years, they are gonna really like that deal. Von Miller, I think he'll still be at a very good level of production. And then once we see the third, the fourth year, we'll definitely see the significant drop off. But I don't think he's going to end up seeing the end of that contract. He's going to be at that point. He's going to be washed.
I think if they win a Super Bowl, they're not going to care about paying Von Miller. I think they see their window now. They're try to do everything they can to win now. If they win a Super Bowl, in the next 3 years, who cares if they're paying him, $20 million a year?
Yeah. I like that they were being aggressive. I like that they were being aggressive and going during that Super Bowl window. So
I like the move. I like the move getting the player in Von Miller. I just think the contract is a little off.
It is definitely a lot of money though.
They also have such a prime chance at literally making the playoffs every year with how comparatively weak their division is.
Exactly.
They're basically guaranteed the playoffs unless barring like an injury or something crazy happening. But I mean, yeah, their time is now, and they'll probably do it.
They have so many players that are in their prime. With their defense is still elite. The offense is elite. I know they lost, their offensive coordinator to the Giants, but they're still elite.
Exactly. You can't deny the talent.
Quarterback. They've got a top 10 wide receiver on the outside, a bunch of other talented guys. They're a really good team. They're a really good team. I like the player, don't like the contract.
That's fair.
I think that's very fair.
And then Von Miller just won a Super Bowl with the Rams, and they went out and made a deal for Allen Robinson to basically replace Odell Beckham. I like it for both sides.
Like it a lot.
I think that Allen Robinson, they got him at good value for the season that he had. He probably would have been paid a little more if he had a better season. But I think he's going to be a good replacement for Robert Woods, and he's going to turn his career around.
I think so too. Like he was just like disgustingly terrible. But to be fair, yeah, that's honestly an understatement. But
he's played with.
He was playing with
his whole career.
Justin Fields
this
year,
now.
who just looked terrible. Like in the passing game, rushing is a different story, but through the air, it was just really, really bad. So I think it's fine. Good. It's a good move by the Rams, replacing Woods with Allen Robinson, who very well could bounce back this year. He's bound to bounce back at least a little bit.
He can't get much worse than he was last year.
Yeah, I was going to say it's hard to get worse.
I think he had one game. I know it's fantasy, but like he had one game where he was above double-digit fantasy points. One.
Yeah.
And he was healthy. Like it was ridiculously bad.
I also think with a lot of it, like how much attention is going to go to Cooper Kupp, it's going to open up
He's
many
find a lot of one-on-one opportunities.
Outside 1v1, just beat your man, and that's what he does.
And even with Van Jefferson too, with he's a good deep threat, so they're gonna have to pay attention to him too. So I think he's in a great situation to really bounce back.
Yeah, and the guy he replaced in Robert Woods was also traded this week to the Titans. Another deal.
Love this deal.
I like it. It's low risk, really high reward to replace Julio Jones.
And I don't think it's similar. I don't think it's the same as the Julio Jones trade because Robert Woods is younger. I know he just had a torn ACL, but like it's like a little bit of a freak injury.
There's also really low expectations now for Robert Woods coming off the injury.
Yeah, exactly. And he's very talented.
He's probably the best, or if not one of the best, run blocking receivers in the league. And what do the Titans love to do? Run the ball. Very, very good fit, I think. He's a different type of receiver than AJ Brown. AJ Brown's more of a go get it type of guy. Robert Woods is more of a agile, I guess speedy type guy. But I mean, it's going to open up. You got to give Tannehill all the help he can really get because we know how we feel about Tannehill.
Yeah. I like it. I think he's gonna help Tannehill. He's gonna be more of a safety blanket than I think AJ Brown is. I think because AJ Brown's kind of a win on the outside kind of guy, where if they could put Robert Woods in the slot, he can do a lot of damage there, which I think is what they didn't do with Julio Jones. So, I like it, and this NFL offseason, it just keeps getting better.
Love it.
I mean, there's so many guys.
To see where Baker goes. Not that Baker's good, but it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up.
Yeah, considering
and we still have a whole draft. We still have a whole draft to see where guys can get traded and teams can change drastically. But
it has been going to be wild offseason. It's going to be in all sports.
Yeah, well, this has been a really
baseball. But
baseball's been even baseball though, and we'll get into